Jordan. Open. Chicago with the lead.
Court. Batista with the catch.
Oh! LeBron James with no regard for human life. Hand down, man down.
Yeah, I can see how disrespectful he's being right now.
No, I went to Temecula and brought you some dirt.
Yeah, that's a technical.
Mama, there goes that man.
Welcome back to The Bounce, everybody. Happy Thursday. Kev here with you, as always, with my good friend and partner in crime, James. How are we tonight, sir?
Good. What's going on, Kev?
Oh, living the dream, brother. We are one night away from Friday. Big weekend, I imagine, for a lot of our fantasy football friends. I know that I have heavy playoff implications coming up this weekend if your playoffs haven't started already. Some people like to go 2-week matchups in the playoffs, James. They get real deep with it. But I think the majority of leagues are in their final week of the regular season. I'm gearing up for the playoffs. How about you? How you looking?
Good. I'm hoping to make it in all three of my leagues. Trying to go 3 for 3 this year. I've not done that yet. I only stick to 3, and that's kind of one too many for me right now. But that's all right. No more.
Yeah, I feel that pain. I'm in 5 this year. With a little luck, we'll sneak in. We'll be 5 for 5. Of course, the one league, James, where I'm not already secured in the playoffs is our Wednesday night Another Damn Fantasy Podcast League.
Of course, right? Of course.
Yeah, the curse of Christian McCaffrey struck again this week, but we managed to survive. And that reminds me, check out our boys. Trevor and Josh ran late last week or yesterday, and we had a massive show last week. So check out Another Damn Fantasy Podcast Wednesdays at 9:15 Eastern for all of your start-sit questions. They do some daily fantasy lineups and stuff like that as well. Underdog, all kinds of good stuff. So before we get into the main course tonight, James, there is a developing story as of
very wild one.
47 minutes ago, according to this probably late alert. So we'll say it's a couple hours old. Bill Belichick, James, apparently he likes hanging out with college kids so much that he is interviewing for the North Carolina Tar Heels head coaching job. What are your thoughts? Would you like to see Bill Belichick coaching college ball?
There's no questioning he's a hell of a coach. College is just a different monster entirely with recruiting and NIL and everything that goes with it. And why would he want to do that?
I don't know. Does his girlfriend go to UNC? Or did she graduate? I can't remember.
She might finally be graduated. But
He might just want to have an excuse to live close to campus.
I don't know. That's
I'm teasing.
I don't know,
all right, I'll
dog,
stop. That's enough from me.
I don't know. I don't have an answer why he'd want to do this. I don't have a clue. I really don't. It's odd. So he's got to have a shot at some NFL jobs, right?
I can imagine there are plenty of NFL teams that would take his services, whether it's as a head coach or even in the front office somewhere. But because that's the other thought. Andrew Luck just recently named the general manager for Stanford. Maybe that's what they're thinking about. Let's have Bill Belichick be our general manager for our college program. Maybe he's
that's
not
a whole
coaching.
Weird situation too. I don't know how that's going to work either.
Little half retirement there. I will say this, I agree with you. It's incredibly odd because you normally see college coaches aspiring to get to the pros, and Bill, from his days in Cleveland to being the winningest Super Bowl coach there is, right? Has done it all. There's nothing else for him to accomplish. So it's interesting for him to go back to college But outside of the NIL, so in theory, if North Carolina can get their money right and have the ability to pay top talent, I think Belichick fits very well with the college, at least what has historically been the college coaching scheme in football. You've seen guys like the most recent being Urban Meyer. You know, some of those guys who are a little tougher on their kids. They're not able to do that to grown men who are in their 30s. You can't yell at, can't kick your special teamers when you're mad at them in the pros. Not to say that Bill would do that, but he's a no nonsense, hard ass, a team over self guy that we used to hear pundits say all the time that he really only got away with that at the pro level as long as he did because Tom Brady was bought in. And when Tom Brady's bought in and the MVP,
then
everybody else falls in line, right? So what do you think about that? Do you think his style would set up for a winning college football program?
Yeah, I don't buy that you can't be hard on kids and win that way. Like Saban's done it. It's done time and time again. You just got to be really good. Like you got to maintain great relationships off the field. Can he win at that level? Absolutely. I just think it's asinine. He's asinine. He's 72. Never coached in college. Entering an era where it's just completely different. You know, I don't think he's doing this, but I'd be fucking locked in paying attention to see if it worked or not.
You know what? It really does scream like midlife crisis energy, right? You know,
except
go buy a sports car, Bill. He's already dating a woman damn near a third his age.
Yeah, good for him.
You know, whatever works for you. You know, it's consenting adults and whatnot. So he's already kind of got that part of the midlife crisis. He sees his buddy Nick Saban having fun, as much fun as Nick Saban can have next to Pat McAfee on Saturdays. And maybe he's thinking, you know what, this college game seems like a lot of fun. I like Flip Cup now, you know, beer pong, all these things that he probably hasn't done for the last 50 years. Maybe he's just there entertaining the idea. I don't really think he will do this.
Maybe it's a courtesy interview type deal. I don't know.
And James, I also should point out before, which is why I was very interested to see that ESPN of all companies ran with this story. The first report that I saw was that Jeff Saturday had been named the UNC coach, and Jeff Saturday himself disproved it. Yeah, legendary Colts head coach Jeff Saturday. He debunked the tweet himself. So there's already today been an example, I won't say a history, of false reporting around this situation. So I find it odd that the big story here might be that ESPN ran with a nonsense non-story. I think that could be the final result here, as Lee, welcome to the show, Lee, says that's asinine. And I also want to welcome Johnny Football. He's here to talk, well, football and maybe a little NBA with James and I. What is up, John? Welcome, brother.
Gentlemen, how we doing?
We are good. How you doing, brother?
Good. I just got I'm really excited for my new Netflix documentary Enigma to come out. I think you guys are really going to like it.
You do have that off-season Aaron Rodgers look going on right now.
Yeah, the mustache has unlocked a lot of characters for me.
I swear his beard gets grayer with each home loss.
His last, like the very last amount of gas he had in the tank, he used throwing a block when they were still up on Seattle. And then everybody gave up.
You just felt that one coming. I in my pick'em this week, of course, took Seattle over the Jets. And for a while there, you're like, oh, are the Jets actually going to rally? Is there any life left in this team? But no. Seattle came crawling back. And we still haven't previewed the Thursday night game. We will definitely do that. We'll make sure we get that in. Guys, if you have any fantasy related questions, get those in now so we can get those answered for you before the lineups lock. But John, I know we missed you on Tuesday night, so there's probably a ton of NFL stuff you may want to talk about. So fire away. We were just spending our time in fantasy land talking about Bill Belichick's return to the sidelines on Saturday. But what about last Sunday or this coming Sunday? How you feeling about your Vikings? What else would you like to talk about?
Yeah, somehow Palpatine returned. I think that this game has a ton riding on it for my Vikings, of course. But it's one of those that's tough to like I know one of them's going to lose, and that's going to be great. But it's really tough to weigh like how one loss affects our division odds. It's tough to parse, so I'm just going to be pretty impartial, I think.
Is the division still realistically in play? We got the Lions have only one loss, but you're not that far behind. What are they? Is it 3 losses for Minnesota? Or are you?
We're 10-2, so we're just a
10
game
and 2.
back.
That's right. You're still only a 2 loss. That blows my mind. And the Packers are the 3-loss team, then, right? They're 9-3.
Correct. So if and we play Detroit week 18. So they have the tiebreaker on us multiple ways. They have head-to-head, and they also have the common opponent tiebreaker against the Rams. But if they lose to the Packers, that actually kind of jumps them for us, being a division loss, also to a common opponent. So if they lose to the Packers, and then both of us win out until week 18 will decide the division. So there's and we play the Packers again before then as well. So it's it's an interesting game, and it's a really interesting. It's got to be the most interesting division in football at this point, unless you're really into the, hey, does anybody want to win the NFC West? Somebody please try to win it.
You could say the same thing about the AFC South.
Yeah, actually, you're right. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, Houston's just take hold of the rope again, Houston. You're giving it too much slack.
Yeah, they are just Chuck Knobloch out there. But anyway, back to you.
Yeah. Twins legend Chuck Knobloch, 91 series. In another Twin to eventually end up on Boston or the Yankees once it comes time for a second contract, but I digress.
Some things never change.
Yeah. What I thought was interesting about Lions Packers right away was the over under is pretty high. I think it was 51.5, 52.5 maybe. And they're both good offenses for sure, but the strengths of both of these teams to this point, if you had to pick one, would probably be their defenses. Particularly Detroit, since and cumulatively now too, they have the best EPA per play allowed in the league, and that's been the case actually since week 8 as well. They've almost gotten better since Aiden Hutchinson went out. They've been down Aiden Hutchinson, Marcus Davenport out for the year. Alex Anzalone has missed some time. Derek Barnes has been out. No John Kaminsky. No Kyle Pico. Carlton Davis has missed some time. And through all those injuries, they've been fantastic, particularly against the pass, playing a ton of man coverage. There's a lot of fanfare for Ben Johnson, and there has been for multiple seasons now. But the best coordinator on Detroit is probably Aaron Glenn. He's been unbelievable, just kind of keeping things afloat in Detroit, and more so than that, actually, they've stayed fantastic, which is it's mind-boggling. They've had, some gimme kind of opponents as far as offenses go, but they've also played some really good teams and played them really well. So You know, and particularly against the pass, they lead the league in EPA against the pass. Against the run, that's still the Vikes. But this will be kind of a contrast of styles as well, between the Packers defense and the Detroit defense. Detroit, like I said, pretty man heavy. Packers don't go to much of that at all with Jeff Hafley. The Packers don't blitz often at all. They're like 20 something in blitz rate. Lions are 5th in blitz rate. And then at QB pressure rate, the Packers are actually 25th in pressure rate. So you might see a game where Jared Goff is really just picking them apart, and Ben Johnson is able to win on the chessboard because you're not generating natural pressure and you're not manufacturing it with the blitz for Green Bay.
They haven't had their defensive backfield too, so that may change their game plan a little bit. Like if it goes the way you're saying, and he's just slicing them apart, they may start blitzing in the second half because. No Jair Alexander, but he's not the only one. When you look at their injury report for the Packers, it's majority defensive backfields, right? Or defensive backs that are listed on it right now. So they're pretty thin.
Yeah, exactly. And without Jair, that's really rough. At corner 2 has been a need for them really since that Rasul Douglas dream season. And really prior to that was kind of a flash in the pan. Kevin King never really panned out. Eric Stokes cannot stay on the field. You know, they've been trying to put a long boundary corner opposite Jair for like 7 years and haven't really been able to do it consistently. But yeah, they could really get killed in the secondary in this game. And what Detroit is going to be a big part of that as well. But Green Bay, like I said, has been a really solid defense to this point. Jordan Love finally fully healthy. Maybe this is an instance where LaFleur is really able to kind of poke some holes in the Detroit defense that seems to just kind of like, you know, just incomprehensibly stayed really good. You feel like the rug's going to get pulled out at some point. Like they can't keep getting away with this. So maybe that's part of that high over under. But like just thinking about these teams conceptually, feels like it's just going to be a grinded out, tough defensive game. But we might see some fireworks. It could get really interesting.
I like that. You're going against the grain. A lot of the pundits have been saying it's going to be a high scoring game, big back and forth. To do my best, Chris Berman, I think we're going to see a lot of Josh Jacobs, Jingleheimer Smith. He's going to be running the ball a lot. We talked about the over-under. James, the spread right now is Detroit, I believe, last I checked, was a 3-point favorite. How do you feel about that? Do you think the Lions are going to win this one at home? Is this one-loss record getting a little too heavy for them right now? They got the target on their back, not usually what the Lions are dealing with. What do you think?
I like them at home tonight. I wish it was 3. I wish it wasn't 3.5. But I trust him at home. I don't trust the Packers fully yet. Jordan Love, he's thrown quite a few interceptions this year. Now I say that as Jared Goff has thrown 5 in a game before. So
they win.
It's going to be fun. Though. It's going to be very, very fun. I think the Lions take care of business at home. Short week. Lean on that running game. We're in for a treat. This is good. This is best Thursday night game we've had in a bit.
We have certainly improved. I remember someone put out a tweet
100%.
Where it was, and I'm sorry, James, I think your team got dragged into this, but somebody said, remember when every Thursday night it was somehow Jags Titans?
Yeah, color rush jerseys too, so it fucking hurts your eyes and shit. Yeah, it was fucking disgusting.
It was just
the gold Jags jerseys versus light blue Tennessee. Like, it was so fucking weird. Like, it was like Christmas, except it fucking was faded out. Yeah, man.
Oh God, yeah, man. It was like they were punishing us all. You want Thursday football so bad? Here you go. Only the worst teams get to play on short weeks. This is what you get. So we've gotten much better matchups now. So as we look into it, another injury, or at least on the offensive side, worth looking, especially for your fantasy outlook. with Romeo Dobbs out. You've got probably a big day for, I would say, what do you think, Dontavius? I think it's going to be Wicks. You would be hoping, if you have Jaden Reed in a flex like I do this week because of a bye, that one of his 3 touches will go for a 25-yard touchdown. And but he has turned into what I have lamented, John. I used to complain about Christian Watson being unrosterable because anytime you start him, he catches 3 balls for 8 yards, and anytime he's on your bench, he catches 2 touchdowns. So Jaden Reed is the new Christian Watson for me. Do you have any thoughts on it? First, we'll just start with the Packers receivers. Is there any favorite for you there? And then if you have something on the other side of the ball, I know you mentioned the Lions might eat it up in the air. Any receivers you're looking at?
Yeah, out of the Packers bunch, I've always been partial to Jaden Reed. I think, what he brings from a skill set standpoint is just different than everything else they have. He's kind of one of those guys that, like, he allows Matt LaFleur to shine in a similar way that Jameson Williams does for Ben Johnson. The schemed up touches and where he places Jaden Reed in the route concept is really, really good stuff. He's able to scheme him open, get him in the open field, get the ball in his hands in a lot of creative ways. Like especially the games Jordan Love missed. Jaden Reed was a huge part of the running game. And so you get a little bit of that extra like fantasy value as well from him getting these manufactured touches, as opposed to just being like a straight up deep threat. He's one of those guys that they use, like he's very gadgety for them and opens up a lot of things for LaFleur. And to Lee's point, yeah, like if you told me to just watch, if you told me to just, zero in and watch all these Packers receivers individually, I'd come away saying, I think Dontavian Wicks is the best receiver in this group. But he doesn't convert his opportunities. He's had the drop. He's really bad. And, just like from a separation standpoint, from a versatility standpoint, if he were more consistent with his hands, he might be their best weapon. But I like Jaden Reed in this one. And then for the Lions, it's the middle of the field for the Packers. Packers linebackers have been rough at times. Quay Walker's shown some flashes, but he, particularly in the run game, when you get him going downhill, he's, got a lot of talent. There's a reason he went in the first round, part of that Georgia defense. But he can get caught out of position in the passing game at the second level as the hook defender. So I do really like Amon-Ra in this one, just because the Packers don't have a slot defender who's going to be able to handle him one-on-one or when he has a two-way go as that like weak side hook defender. And if you are breaking over the middle, crossing the face of a guy like Quay Walker, I think you're going to have a lot of opportunities to win there. Probably Keyshawn Nixon in the slot more often than not. You might be able to scheme up like a Ballantyne matchup. And I think they're just outmatched on the outside. So I like Amon-Ra. I think Detroit's going to be really happy to take what they can get in the short and intermediate and just really matriculate up and down the field. And really take the air out of the football against Green Bay. I think they're going to want to limit Green Bay's possessions best they can, and I think you're going to see a lot of long, drawn-out drives for Detroit, which contributes to kind of my thought that the over-under seems a little high. I think Detroit's going to want to keep overall possessions low and dominate time of possession in this game just because you have the advantage against this defense, particularly being so banged up. Your defense is banged up, and the firepower that Packers offense has when it's really humming. So I think Detroit probably keeps Green Bay to like 6 or 7 possessions this game and just really deflates it.
Well, that plays well into my question for James. So John just gave us the breakdown on what he likes in the passing game. James, this is a little bit more of a versus, I suppose. But as far as the running backs, if you were looking at it, do you expect it to be Jacobs or the combination of Montgomery and Gibbs that has the better night tonight?
Ooh, that one's fun. Jacobs has been really hot lately. Been a lot of fun. I'm glad you didn't make me pick one of the Lions running backs because that's impossible.
That didn't seem fair.
No, that does not seem fair at all. Let's take a gander here. Jacobs has been really good. Let's think here.
Yeah, he does a little bit of everything. And to John's point, part of why the Lions will hope that they score a touchdown on the first drive like they do 90% of the time and can maybe get a 2-score lead is Jacobs just happens to be, for my money, the best player on that side of the ball for Green Bay. So if they can force them into passing a lot,
take the ball out of his hands type deal. Fuck. I'm going to take the Lions duo because I think they're going to win this game, but it wouldn't surprise me if the Lions won, but Jacobs had the better game. I'm going to take the duo, but that's kind of a cheat code because I get 2 of them.
Well, it's fair. You know, Jacobs does pretty much dominate. I know they've got, they've got at least one young back there. They've got some guys that just there's no room because Jacobs is getting all the snaps he can catch.
Yeah, he's so good, man. And it's crazy.
Good.
Like I loved Aaron Jones there before. Josh Jacobs is awesome. He's fun. Very good fucking player.
Yeah, like Aaron Jones, good back. Don't get me wrong, and I know John can speak to some of the value he's brought, but Josh Jacobs is a level of running back that the Packers just have not had. Like not in our lifetime, really. That was always the knock, right? They had Brett Favre for 2 decades with Dorsey Levens being the best running back that ever got lined up next to him. You know, maybe Amon Green. Shout out James there. I believe he was a Husker, right? Yeah, there we go. So Amon Green might have something to say about that. But for my money, Josh Jacobs is the best Green Bay Packer running back that I have ever watched with my own eyes. And a lot of that is based on what he did before he got there. But he's just a different level of player to me. And to see him, no offense to Raiders fans, but to see him on a good team is kind of refreshing too, because I feel like that's going to do a lot for the rest of his career. Lee says whoever starts the first drive for the Lions is the one to watch. Okay. That'll be a good note to keep an eye on. Now, again, if we have any more questions or thoughts about the game, get them in. We will answer them. No reason we can't pivot back to football. But before we dive into the NBA stuff, I think, John, you had something you wanted to talk about.
Yeah, and actually really quick, you know what's really interesting about Jacobs in this offense this season is he had the year in 2022 when he led the league in touches. And when he came to Green Bay, I was kind of under the impression that wouldn't necessarily keep up. He wouldn't, just be, I thought he'd still be the bell cow of the group, but I thought they'd go a little bit more committee just because under LaFleur and even shortly previously, they didn't put a ton of mileage on their backs. When they had Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon, Jones, they kept him fresh. He wasn't getting a crazy amount of touches. But I think LaFleur sort of took that kind of Shanahan blueprint because he was the same way until he got a guy that he felt was really, a top 5 caliber running back. And then he said, all right, we have Christian McCaffrey. He's getting 99% of touches. Oh, Christian McCaffrey's back? All right, Jordan Mason, you can have 2 carries. And he's kind of gone that way now that he has a back that he feels like is a 3-down running back who's going to be durable. They're feeding the shit out of him. And he's putting up the numbers to go with it. So, it's been a really interesting, trend this kind of league wide. But specifically with Jacobs, when he got here, I was like, well, yeah, that's a fair price, and I really like the fit, but I don't know if they're really gonna just run him into the ground like Vegas did. But lo and behold, they've kept on him. I mean, he's got 221 carries. Emmanuel Wilson has 68, and that is the next most is actually Malik Willis with 16.
That's
Oh, Lord.
And rookie Marshawn Lloyd, I thought might eat into some of those carries, but has been on the field too. So I just thought that's been kind of interesting with how Jacobs has been deployed. But
it is. It's funny when you mentioned Shanahan. I went to Dad because you were talking modern day Shanahan, but Dad did the same thing. He went running back by committee anytime he didn't have Terrell Davis back there. You had Olandis Gary rushing for 1,000 yards and stuff like that. But anyway, sorry.
Yep.
It's just funny how
little
that tree has grown.
Clinton Portis action.
Yeah, exactly. But back to you, John.
Yep. Yeah, no, and I just wanted to, since I didn't have the Tuesday show, to use kind of my platform to shout this out, I wanted to just hop on here and give a shout out to a friend of mine and ours at Purple and Scold Media, kind of my Vikings group of guys that do Skull Fest together and everything like that. We had a member of our team, Curtis Anderson, pass away on Tuesday night from really just a freak accident, and there is a GoFundMe for his wife and his mom. I was had a crazy week I told you guys about, but I wasn't able to jump on his memorial stream either on his channel, but his mom was actually on that stream. And he was a part of a show called Vikings Vintage, where him and our boy TB, Zone would be on there sometimes, Yogi. They would just talk Vikings history, and they'd hours and hours, and they had a really great community built up over there. And he was live all game on Sunday for the Vikings Cardinals game, and he was an eighth of our group chat. I got to meet him one time at Skullfest. He was never anything but kind to me, super fun to talk ball with, and then from everything I've heard since as well, just a really great guy and just a genuine guy, which was the read. I got on him as well, from when we met and the times we got a chance to talk. A lot of the guys were much closer to him than I was, but I just wanted to kind of do my part to, commemorate him and what he brought to the community. It's like, we talk about football, and it's very much like the kind of family we have here at Bite Size Sports. The 8 of us talking Vikings. You talk sports with guys for long enough, and it becomes something more than sports. You have a bond with these guys, like with you two and Nate and Trevor and Michael and Zach and Nick and Ben, and Josh and Simon. Like it's very much like that. You find other common interests, whatever it may be, and it's just it's just a tough thing. It's been, of course, extremely hard on his family, and if it's something where you're in the position to do so or you feel so inclined, I did send the GoFundMe link over, and we'll get that posted in the description, and you can also find that on my Twitter as well. And if you wanted to check out any of the great stuff they did over at Vikings Vintage, that's on YouTube as well, and that'll live forever. But one of the last things that was posted on the channel he was a part of was actually, hey, go hit that like and subscribe button, and also check out Bite Size Sports. And I think that was actually Yogi who posted that, but Curtis was the same way. That's never anything I asked for. He just knows, like, hey, this is part of the community, and he was always just just great to talk ball with, and we're gonna miss him. So, but yeah, like I said, I just didn't have the platform this week to say something and to put this out there. So I just wanted to hop on, and I appreciate you guys kind of letting me do that really quick.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, of course, John, man. And for those out there, I did just put the link in a comment as well. So I will star it here on YouTube. We'll make sure it's pinned. And as John said, we will also put it in the description after the show is over. So, yeah, you're right, man. And it's a thing that I think a lot of sports fans can relate to. We all met on a different network, for those who don't know. And my former teammates on the Colts writing staff of that website, from the managing editor all the way down to the rest of us beat writers, we are all still in a Colts group chat. We used to write about it together. We used to podcast about it together. Shout out to Horseshoe Pride podcast. We'd probably be back at some point, but the one thing that has never gone away is the group chat. And it does become a thing. Like, I tell my Colts group chat happy Thanksgiving. You know what I'm saying? Like it becomes, as John said, part of the family. So my condolences to you, John. And shout out to everybody there. And hopefully, good.
Yeah, no. And like I said, too, like, it's really very little to do with me. Like I said, a lot of the guys were, had the chance to hang out with him a lot more often than I did, or speak directly to him much more often than I did. But I just felt like, if there's anything I can do to help, if there's any platform I have that I can use, just to put that out there, I was going to. So, but yeah, it's that same exact thing, Kev. Like it's one of those that you're never really sure it'll hit you that hard until you're like, man, that's there's never going to be a notification from this guy on my phone, because like all these virtual relationships we have, it's a little different than like somebody you see all the time or whatever that is, but it becomes very similar when there is like a common goal or a common interest, and things like that. And it's just, he was just always so excited about the next thing, the next show, the next Vikings game, the next Skull Fest, when we were going to have a chance to all get together. So, like I said, just wanted to get that out there without, or putting too much of a damper on. But, like I said, if you're in a position or you feel so inclined, people are never going to ask for stuff like that. But if you're able to give and able to help, I know it's just a really, really tough time for them.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, thank you to anyone who is able to help out. And John, before we do switch to the hardwood, do you want to maybe, in his honor, give us a little preview, give us your thoughts on the Vikings this week? I know we're not normally as Viking centric unless Johnny and Josh are on the stream, but I feel like although we won't focus on any of the other games, this isn't our NFL show. That's John's business. But maybe for any of the Vikings fans out there, and as a salute to your fallen comrade, you want to just give us your thoughts on how wrong I was about Sam Darnold?
Yeah, man. Funny thing about Catch, as he was known by Catch, is that on these shows he was actually kind of a you might classify him as like a Kirk sympathizer. He was always kind of looking for a Kirk silver lining. Yeah, yeah, exactly. But he was kind of one of the Vikings fans, sort of like I was, who was always just kind of like, all right, it's not as doom and gloom as you're saying. Like, 12th, 11th, 10th best quarterback in the league. It could be a lot worse. That whole thing. But no, I think Sam Darnold in particular has been on a fucking heater since that Jags game. Has not thrown a pick in the last 3 games. He's made some of the best throws I've seen all season over the course of those games, particularly in the comeback against Arizona. Some unbelievable throws. There was a whole shot on a corner route to Jordan Addison that he dropped in between 3 guys. Jefferson ran a deep curl against what looked like cover 3, ripped it right between the hook and the flat defender. And there's a back angle where it's behind Justin Jefferson, and you see slow motion, the hands crossing the throwing window just a second late, and it just gets perfectly to Justin. Just some unreal throws, and really, really good pocket management, particularly over the last 3 games. So against Atlanta, against the worst pass rush in the league, for 20 years, except for that Vic Beasley season and a couple of John Abrahams. It should be a good show. I'm hoping, and Kevin O'Connell says this in his post game like locker room speeches, in his post game pressers all the time. Like, we still haven't played our best game. We haven't played 60 minutes of our best football. And if there's a week for it, I think it's this one. Now, granted, Kirk had. Sorry, I'm just plugging in the laptop here. Kirk had his really bad game with the 4 picks last week. Mm-hmm. Now that tends to mean that Kirk's going to be incredible this week,
especially in a revenge game.
Because revenge game, dude. I know a lot of people are talking about booing him. I'm not one to boo, but I get it. But what's interesting too, and I have a piece about this coming out on zonecoverage.com tomorrow. But I pulled a lot of really fun stats that I'm just going to rattle off really quick about the Vikings defense that I think kind of encapsulates what they've been able to do to this point in the season. And they threw a big curveball at Arizona last week, running a lot of man coverage out of nowhere. To that point in the season, they'd run man coverage at just a 12.9% rate, dead last in the league. No one runs less man coverage than the Vikings. And they ran a ton of it against Arizona, which, seems kind of out of left field. Like, you maybe worried about Marvin Harrison and Michael Wilson. You don't have zone eyes on the pocket. You're worried about the Kyler Murray scramble, but they stuck to it. Even when Stephon Gilmore went down with an injury, Fabian Moreau stepped in and was manning everybody up. He's getting picked on a little bit, but he did admirably. But this Vikings defense still, even they had that really, really hot start. Oh, best defense in the league. Tabled off a little bit, especially the games Blake Cashman missed. Blake Cashman is still undefeated when he is active. The Vikings defense 5th in drop back EPA per play, 1st in rushing EPA per play, as well as the lowest man coverage rate. They run the least amount of cover 1 at about 8%, but they are 4th in EPA per play when they do run cover 1. They're 2nd in cover 2 rate and 1st in quarters rate. So almost over 50% of the time they're middle field open, cover 2, cover 4, dropping out behind, usually, most of them ejecting from the line of scrimmage, or they're sending a 5-man pressure in front of it. And they're 26th in cover 3 rate at 30%, which is, that probably sounds crazy to you, Kev, with Gus Bradley over there. But but yeah, one of the big staples in the league. They barely run any of it, and they're also like, you might picture the Brian Flores defense. Yeah, number 1 in blitz rate. They probably run a lot of zero pressures with just man to man behind 6 or 7 man pressures. They're actually league average in zero blitz rate, 14th. But when they do, they're second in EPA per play. So he's using it a lot more sparingly than he did last year. But he's pulling it out in more, specific moments and pulling the right levers on this defense. And I'm not sure yet if that man coverage blip was just like wanting to have a change up on tape for future opponents, or if it was something that we'll see persist a little bit. But and I've said this before too. I think I said it to Ben on Necessary Roughness last week. This defense is like as fun to watch as like most offenses. Like if you're just zeroing in on one, just all the moving parts, as cohesive as it is as a unit, the different calls you see, the different ways they get to the same post snap coverages, it's like just as interesting as watching Mike McDaniel's pre-snap motion and shit like that. Like, it's just really, really fun defense to watch. Kirk, if he does get hot, is kind of the type of quarterback who could give us some issues if the pressure's not getting home. But again, like this Falcons offense, they barely ever run under center. They're barely ever doing any bootlegs. They run like wide zone out of pistol like 70% of the time. And
like me playing NCAA 14.
Yeah. And if we do get home, Kirk's not going to be able to move around much. But I think the Vikings beat the shit out of them. But knowing the Vikings, it's probably going to be a little bit closer than that.
It's going to be like 19-17, man. Some of these Viking games have been throwing me off.
Yeah.
Like, what do you mean you have 6 points through 3 quarters? What? Why does Justin Jefferson have 2 catches?
What do you mean? Yeah, what do you mean you have 450 yards of total offense and 28 first downs and you scored 12 points? What's happening?
Yeah, it's like, what is going on?
Yeah, but for what it's worth, even when the points haven't been coming, red zone turnovers, Aaron Jones has fumbleitis for the first time in his career out of nowhere. Even when they're turning the ball over and things aren't going right, they're never not moving the ball. They're putting between the 20s specifically, they are getting chunks after chunks. They're staying on schedule. Rushing success rate is still about league average. And man, if Darnold keeps playing like this, you're going to have to seriously start talking about this team as a real contender. And that week 18 game against Detroit, I think is going to tell us a lot about how far he's come, especially if Carlton Davis and that whole secondary is back healthy. So I don't know. I think the Vikings are a fun team to watch, especially for an impartial party. You probably won't be graying the way I am or losing hair watching them. You can just have fun and be like, man, this team does some wonky shit. This is cool. And you can just be at peace with whatever happens. But yeah, so for an impartial party, Falcons-Vikes should be a really fun game to watch.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it should be good. I am rooting for a little bit of Falcons offense for my fantasy purposes. Lee, he's got a question for you, John. What's your take on giving Darnold a 3-year, $100 million contract matching Bake's contract?
So I'm still of the opinion that Sam Darnold is playing for someone else's money right now.
Because of JJ, right?
Because of JJ, right?
Yeah.
If Sam would take a 1-year deal, I'd pay him $50 million.
Oh, okay. Kirk Cousins.
Shit. It's a lot of money to say no to.
1 year, $50 million, 3 void years. We'll figure the shit out on the back end.
Give him one of those Bobby Bonilla deals.
I think
because you do have JJ. JJ was a first rounder, so you have the extra year on him. on his contract.
Yep. Yeah. Give Darnold the fucking Taysom Hill. I don't really care, dude. If he's willing to come back for 1 year and hit free agency again, I'd take him back in a heartbeat. Just let JJ actually have a healthy backup season, where he's not rehabbing, where he's able to get live reps without the real pressure. But at the same time, I think JJ's ready for it. He's been ready for this his entire life. I could go on and on about what JJ's done in high school and college. He's a winner, and KOC loves working with him. Josh McCown will still be here. Wes Phillips, a really good offensive infrastructure for him from a coaching staff to a personnel perspective. So that'd be great. But if you're talking about Sam hitting the open market and a team like Cleveland considering taking another spin, if they're able to get out from under Deshaun Watson's contract, if you're talking about a in a different timeline, if he wasn't drafted by the Jets, I think the Jets would kick the tires on him for sure. Giants could be in the mix for Darnold. I could see
that's good.
I could see even like a Saints.
Saints are a good option.
If you're talking about one of these teams that feels like
Maybe the
could,
Rams next year when Stafford retires.
Maybe the Rams. If we get a Stafford retirement, Darnold back to the Rams, or Darnold to the Rams, excuse me. I was picturing Baker's little stint on the Rams. But if Darnold ends up over there, I think that'd be great. He'd get a glowing recommendation from Kevin O'Connell to his old buddies in LA. And I think he'd fit well. But if you're talking about one of those teams thinking, hey, you know, we've got young talent elsewhere, we feel like the rest of the roster's playoff ready, I think you're talking about one of those teams going to get Sam Darnold, 4 years, 160, 4 years, 180.
And then he turns back into Kevin Cobb.
If you don't have like a serious drop off in his play the rest of the season, if the next 5 games are microcosmic of his first 12, that's what I think he should make on the open market. There's not really a plethora of other like veteran stopgap quarterbacks who can, you know, set you a high floor that are going to be on the market. You know, it's going to be Jacoby Brissett, Minshew again,
Jameis,
Winston, Daniel Jones, Jameis. It's guys like that, and Darnold's playing about as good a football as anybody. He outplayed Caleb Williams in Caleb Williams' best game, and that was completely drowned out by Daryl Johnston's just absolute slobbering of everything Bears. You would have thought it was a spring game, Bears versus Bears, like Ohio State does, the way Daryl Johnston was calling that game. It was the dumbest shit ever. Sam Darnold was just spraying it, and he was like, oh, look at this. Like, I don't know. It was frustrating. Greg Olsen did a lot better job leveling with us, but
what a tackle after that 22-yard gain.
Yeah, exactly. But I think there's going to be a lot of folks' impression of Darnold that's still just going to be really clouded by their like old takes. And the guy Darnold, he is a different quarterback this season. I'd be saying this if he wasn't playing for my favorite team. If you go on NFL.com and you watch the replay of Vikings Cardinals and you fast forward to Cardinals 19, Vikings 6, and just let it play, you're going to be like, this is the top 5 quarterback in the league. And, you know, yeah, you have ups and downs, you have some turnovers, you have some bonehead stuff, but all that's really getting ironed out, and he's playing his best football right now. As incredible as his first 5 games were with 11 touchdowns, 2 picks, the last 3 have been better.
Yeah, he keeps this up. I'm going to have to delete a couple of old videos from this channel but we'll save that. We'll save that
I
for
still
another
have-
day.
My pinned tweet is still from the offseason. It says the ghosts that Sam Darnold will see while operating a Kevin O'Connell offense. And it's the end of Return of the Jedi where it's Anakin, Obi-Wan, and Yoda as the Force ghosts.
Fucking love that.
That is great.
That's
I love
who's
that.
been on his shoulder all season.
That's
So,
fucking
oh,
great.
and that actually has aged. It's aged very well.
Very
Yeah, it has.
well.
That has
Use the
worked
Probably
out.
laughed at it at the time, and now they love it.
Yeah, I would have been one of them.
Yep.
Same.
Man. Well, I know we're getting close here to our wrap up time. I want to say shout out to Nate. I don't think I'm taking any Malort shots tonight.
No more shots.
Just be ready, gang. If IU makes the playoffs, our
They're
chat
going.
is
They're
gonna be
in.
really,
They're in. They are
really
in.
fun. Real
Them
fun.
boys are in.
My condolences, he says as well. To
They
John.
are fucking in.
And I am with Lee. The NBA is in a funk right now. Going to enjoy tonight's football game. James, I'll kick this one to you. I only really had one matchup tonight that I looked at that I thought would be
Let me
worth
update the score
tuning
real quick.
into. And you
got
see it's on
Cleveland-
our thumbnail.
Cleveland
What you got?
Nuggets. Okay, the score was right. Get out of there. Get out of there, Tab. Go and get. We've got 63-62, 1 minute left in the first half. Cavs up 1. We get some points here. Joker 17, 12, and 4. Of course, he's doing everything. That's all I have anymore. Donovan Mitchell 10 and 4 turnovers, 3 assists. Evan Mobley 3, 4, 2. Karis LeVert 16 points off the bench for the old Cavs. So you got a tight one right now. Denver's winning the second quarter by 9. Cleveland won the first quarter by 10. So fun one. Nuggets need to find some help for the Joker, man. He steps off the floor. They are a different team. They're fucking bad.
Yeah, they did not maintain as well over the last couple of years, but
No, they did not.
yeah, that's really the one to watch for my money. I was saying to James in the pre-show, if you're a real sicko, historically, I've always had fun watching a Kings-Grizzlies matchup, but I don't know tonight how entertaining that game's going to be. But there's not a lot. There's a lot of good versus bad teams tonight. It's not that there's a complete lack of games, but you've got the Knicks, who I'm sure John Haidt watches occasionally, taking on the Hornets, I think. So not the biggest night for the NBA, but that's okay because, as we've said a time or two before, football's bounced too, and I can always just switch this to a supersized sports. So we have had fun talking NFL mainly and a little bit of college ball with you guys tonight. I know we got to get out of here soon, so I will hand things to you, James. Is there anything else you want to talk about? And if not, we can start the sign off and you can let the folks at home know where they can find you.
Nope. Looking forward to a good NFL game tonight. We already talked about the old tomfoolery that is Bill Belichick interviewing for college jobs now. Just whatever, man. Whatever. Do your thing. No, that's all I got for tonight. You can catch me and Kev on our sister station. Sometimes John on Dweeb talking nerd stuff, Star Wars. Mondays at 6, Wednesdays at 9. Come on down. We're watching Skeleton Crew right now. John, I don't know if you've watched it yet, but if you have to give me a 10-second review of the first 2 episodes.
Oh, dude, I've been procrastinating it. I still gotta watch it. I still haven't watched your guys' show last night, so I'll have to go
that's
back.
fine.
I've seen the
I'm
Discord.
interested to get your thoughts. I'm interested to get your
Discord.
thoughts. I will say, I will.
Sure.
I will.
I
preface
could
this and
also be Jude Law right now. Oh, go ahead.
You could, yes, but he's coming our way more. I will say, John, you've got little kids. I think they will love this show.
Sick.
I'm gonna stand on that ground. I
Sick.
think it's a great show for them.
Okay,
Yeah,
love it.
It should
Love it.
work
Yeah,
out.
I
I
should be
think
checking it out
everybody
this
will have
weekend.
fun.
Yep.
Yeah. I've
Well,
got a
John,
long
you
weekend
mentioned-
off work, so I'll try to squeeze it in.
Oh, nice. And thank you, Lee. We appreciate you as always hanging out in the chat with us. John, you mentioned a couple of the things already, and you've got them on your headline there, but where else can the folks at home find you?
Yeah, guys, just right here, Tuesdays, most Tuesdays. And then zonecoverage.com is where all my written work is. All covering the Vikings. So if you have any interest in it, a lot of it's Flores centric. If you couldn't tell by my enthusiasm, I couldn't curb to save my life. But also, whatever's going on in the offense, I watch a ton of Vikings film, and there's a lot of other really good writers as well on zone coverage. Other Minnesota sports are covered there. There's Packers writers we've got. And then also check me out on Twitter at John B. Boyd 12. I'm always live tweeting games, posting film clips, the occasional joke or what have you. But pretty active on there. So if you want to keep up with anything I'm doing, you can usually find it there. And I'll leave you guys with the Timberwolves. Had the best season they'd had in 20 years, and they ruined it.
What the
following
fuck were they
season.
thinking, man?
You ruined the chemistry and the continuity in the locker room. Julius Randle is a good player. It doesn't, dude. It's unbelievable. Kevin and I had a long show about this.
God.
And I was trying to be glass half full about it, and I still do like some of the things on paper that it unlocks for them. But Jesus Christmas, dude!
I agree with
honestly,
you, man.
why don't you at least run it back one more year? Just another year, and then get screwed on your cap sheet next year.
I agree with you 100%, man.
You were so close. That was such a good team.
Were they
and there's
thinking?
just things they can't do anymore. It's unbelievable. Anthony Edwards has said after games, it's like none of us can talk to each other. It's like it's a bunch of kids. All of a sudden, and only because now we don't.
I'm not
have,
a
the
cat
only guy
believer
missing
either. Like,
is the guy who nationally everybody thinks is corny and childish. Yeah,
I'm not a cat.
I'm
either.
more of
pretty
one
hard
now
on
than
them,
I was.
But I'm like, I'm the same way now, man. Like, the fuck were you guys thinking? What was? I don't know, man.
I'm so bummed out about it.
I feel bad for you too, man. And at least Anthony Edwards with Cat, like, they were fucking fun. They were good. Anthony Edwards, one of the best players in the league, and now they're buried. And they're just meh. It's the best way. Like, it's
they
just
had
like
a great.
they had a at least run, like you said, at least run it back for year two.
Great, like. Yeah, that was the first year you had him healthy next to Gobert, and it gets you to the Final Four, and you're like,
nah,
that didn't work quite well enough.
We can do this better. We can one up that. God,
That's right.
He was loved in Minneapolis too. Like, the way they treated him on the way out the door was so bad. Like,
Best season we've ever had. I'm gonna need you to double it.
Yeah,
immediately. It's like, bro, what were we doing? Although
put everything on black.
Yeah, exactly. That's essentially what they did. But look no further than my beloved Pacers for evidence that running it back doesn't always work either. So, because I feel like I'm on the opposite end of this pain spectrum, Johnny.
Yeah.
I got exactly what I wanted. They kept my young squad intact. They're running it back. And what the fuck is this team that all of a sudden the entire NBA has figured out? All like in one season, it's like, what happened? You know what? I am starting to believe, as unfortunate as it is, I am starting to be an anti-Rick Carlisle truther. I'm starting to believe those folks that say, you know what? A couple of supremely talented individuals have been carrying that man because he is the antithesis of Eric Spoelstra when it comes to in-game adjustments. It's sometimes I'm just thinking, like, is Coach watching the games? Sometimes I wonder. But that's a soapbox I'll stand on a different day.
Rick Carlisle, notorious Devin Harris merchant.
He's a merchant a few different ways. But anywho, you can find other ridiculous rants like that from me on Twitter at @KevNevick_. As James mentioned, you can find me on our sister station, Dweeb. Every once in a while, you'll find me on Tuesdays hanging out with John and the boys. Be on the lookout for more videos, and also bitesizesports.com. Check that out. We are locked and loaded, getting some articles back out to you. So be sure to check that out, and don't miss the audio feed. You want to save a little data, you want to listen to us on the road, go check us out on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. But once again, thank you to everyone who tuned in live. We appreciate each and every one of you. Love those lurkers too. But for now, it's time for us to bid you adieu. So we will see you all next time.
The NFL's best.
Open. Chicago with the lead.
But